Sup?
What's up?
What's up? What's up? It's MCAT Eve.
What?
It's MCAT Eve.
Yeah.
EVE.
Oh.
Um, so yeah. Um, Basically today I wanted to cover a passage I had difficulty with.
Okay.
Uh, Apart from that passage, my last like 7 to 8 cars passages have been like very, very good.
Yeah.
So going into Friday with like, you know, great momentum
Hmm.
on that front. And yeah. But this specific passage was tough, so we could do that. And then there's one other thing I want to go over in terms of science, like electromagnetic cells and stuff. But tomorrow the plan is we're gonna go over like the sheet
Hmm.
and like anything that's a little tougher for me on the sheet, right? Okay. It's like I think pretty last passage, so takes a while.
Yeah. Also, last yesterday I didn't tell you, but I mean, I didn't point it out, but you were able to finish those three passages in time without knowing the time.
Right.
So I have two thoughts about that. One, if you had the time known, would that have made you go a little bit faster, or would it have distracted you?
Probably like both.
So,
Yeah.
but ultimately, the other stuff that I observed was that your everything that you did was it should be whatever you're gonna do. Like, however, like the way that you did it yesterday. Um, because I was like starting to write out like timestamps and stuff, and upload the vid for you to see. But like a lot a couple of times, like I saw you literally like go like this. Like,
I know. I'm
so
forcing myself to think.
yeah, yeah. But it was quite incredible because we did three passages where you didn't know you were being timed, and they differed in that, I mean, particularly for that last one, that there were freaking 10 questions. You're able to still answer all, like, it's double the amount of questions, but it still took you essentially the same amount of time as it took you for the other passages with the five questions. So, and your instinct is pretty spot on at this point. Like, you were able to get your answer um uh correct, as well as pretty quickly. So I think what you were doing was you were taking your time in reading it and adjusting your pace as needed. Like in one of the passages, I think it was like the second paragraph, you spent four times the amount that you spent. It was the one with the three paragraphs, the long one.
Yeah.
You spent a lot more time in that first, and like I think like 3 minutes or something like that, and then like 1 minute for the other one. So that also shows me that you're able to adjust your pace uh to reap the benefits, without going too fast to the extent where you don't understand it, and without going too slow to the extent that you run out of time. So just yeah, you've made a incredible amount of progress in general, but especially in cars for like the last few days. So
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, most people say you can't make any progress in cars in a week. I mean, I feel like I've definitely made considerable amount. So I'm very like happy, obviously, and also carrying that momentum into the exam, that confidence
Yep.
is really key.
Yep.
So yeah, it's slightly annoying my obsessive compulsiveness that like, I haven't tried out this strat on an actual, nine passage full length that's never passage I've never seen before. But I think that, like I've done like 7 to 8 passages, right? It's like at a certain point, at least one of these, well, except this passage, one of these I would get like a lot of mistakes in the past,
Yeah.
even if I did it before, but I didn't. Like I still did well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Yep.
says something
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. You can always improve, and like I never subscribe to the idea that you can't, because it's just not true. Like you're literally learning no matter what. Like even like if it doesn't seem, yeah, if it doesn't seem like it, but okay. So yeah, so okay, we can go
do it.
over this. And then for the other, like, I guess like if we have time after this, there could be some questions, like random questions that I'll like ask you and stuff.
Hmm.
And then for tomorrow, before we meet, like I think you should go through like the quick sheets and stuff just to identify areas that you want to like do some more stuff on.
For sure, for sure.
Okay. So, but yeah,
But
your instinct is exactly what you want it to be. So, so I think on the test, relying on your, your I of course relying on your instinct, but like your ability to think it through is like, yeah, it's gonna work well for you.
hmm. Okay.
Here's a really quick one though.
Hmm.
Um, what is this? And not like what like yeah, what like situation?
Snell's law. I mean, that's my first thought.
Okay.
Um, I mean,
Sorry, that should be the angle of that one, but yeah.
okay. Um, okay, well, I know that like because my instinct is telling me this might be like total internal reflection or like critical angle thing. Because sine of one is one, sine of sorry, 90 is one. So N2 is the the angle for N2 is 90 here. So this would be a critical angle. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, how do you want to do this cars passage?
I think by paragraph.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, like paragraph, uh, like are you gonna like read it out loud? Do you want to do it like the way we? Well, I guess you did this already, so
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, you could read it out loud and like I guess talk me through it. Yep.
Okay. We are now witnessing the death of management. By management, I mean the peculiar American idea still taught at many business schools that a good manager should be able to manage any enterprise, anywhere, anytime. Through incisive analyses and decisive action, our super managers supposedly can make any company productive and profitable. Okay, so yeah, they're witnessing death of management. That's the new idea. And they're saying supposedly that these super managers they could make any company productive and profitable. And that idea has actually like collapsed. Doesn't really work. At companies that once actually symbolized the U.S. financial prowess. And then he gives some examples of those companies.
what do you think he means when he says good manager?
Uh, well, he's kind of being like sarcastic because there's like the quotes around it. Like it's not actually a good manager.
So like, but yeah, what would good manager be able
Can
to?
manage any
Mhm.
enterprise anywhere, anytime.
Good. All right, yep.
So with hindsight, we can see the absurdity. Okay, new idea. I mean, well, actually, yeah. I mean, I guess it's a new idea, new paragraph. Like it's been absurd. That this was an idea, I guess, and yeah, we don't see a winning football coach switching to basketball. Um, nor concert pianist becoming a symphony violinist. We don't think an orthopedic surgeon will automatically make a good psychiatrist. We recognize that differences in talent, temperament, knowledge, and experience make some people good at some things and not at others. Um, somehow managers are supposed to be immune to this logic. So yeah, the author's saying that he's kind of hinting at the fact that the super managers can't be like an octopus, like they can't be good at everything, a bunch of different things. It's kind of he's hinting at the fact that maybe there should be some sort of specialization in a way, but
Okay.
hasn't said it yet.
I want to
Um,
I want to ask you this, which is not really to do with this, but what psych soc like theory of intelligence would a super manager be analogous to?
fluid intelligence.
Oh, so which type of intelligence would be analogous to like a super manager?
Probably Spearmins.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
They aren't, of course. Indeed. Wait, so yeah. Somehow managers were supposed to be immune to this logic. Okay, they're not actually immune to this logic. The people who have created great businesses in recent decades typically confirm the logic. Yeah, they have not been all-purpose executives, casually changing jobs and succeeding on the strength of dazzling analysis. Instead, they have been semi-fanatics who doggedly or dodgedly, I don't even know how to pronounce it, pursued a few good ideas. People like Sam Walton, Walmart, Ray Kroc. Okay, just gives some examples of people that pursued a few good ideas, but like really excelled at them. Okay. What seems astonishing is how a bad idea survived so long. Okay, so I mean, he's still talking about this idea and how it still survived to this day. Our infatuation with it partly reflected Americans' optimism that all problems are amenable to reason. In 1914, Frederick Winslow Taylor's The Principles of Scientific Management appeared and set the tone. Taylor pioneered time and motion studies, which analyzed how specific jobs might be done more efficiently. Okay? But his larger purpose was to prove that the best management is a true science, resting upon clearly defined laws. Okay, so he um, brings up an example like of Taylor's, I guess, book or whatever, and it set the tone for this idea, this bad idea. I'm understanding, right? And yeah, he talks about efficiency, how Taylor pioneered efficiency, and I will say up until this point, I'm understanding what I'm reading, but as the thing goes on, I was having difficulty understanding what the main idea is. But so he says Taylor is talking about efficiency, and then Taylor's larger purpose. Uh, actually compare management to a science, and there's like clearly defined laws that define it.
Yeah, um so he starts a paragraph off saying like, okay, it's seems astonishing that people were able to keep this bad idea like alive for so long. And then they say something, and then they say something about Taylor. So as support. So what's being said in between?
Like, what do you mean?
So between like it's amazing how long this bad idea survived, and then where it says like Taylor, made this book, right?
Yeah, so our infatuation with the partly reflected Americans' optimism that all problems are amenable to reason. So I guess they're saying Americans are like they have a positive outlook on things and that problems will be like there's a reason for all these problems and I wasn't sure what amenable means. Like I know amend, but amenable I don't really know. Like problems are solvable.
Okay. Bye.
Reason?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you can see how it, yeah, so it's like, okay, we can't imagine how long this bad idea survived, but it reflects the belief that Americans have that you can solve problems using reason.
Mhm.
And then we have to support that Taylor, who is saying that uh, you could improve based on like science, which could be considered reason, right?
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Up to a point, who can quarrel with a resort to reason?
Talks about it there too. And it's like, all right, how could you fight against reason? You know? Yeah.
The trouble is that it was taken too far and became self-destructive. The problem was not that freelance managers constantly jump between companies, although that happened. The problem was that the style of running big companies changed for the worse. The belief that all problems could be solved by analysis favored the rise of executives who were adept with numbers and with making slick presentations. Okay. Um, Huge staffs of analysts serve these executives. Conglomerates multiplied on the theory that a good manager could manage anything. Okay.
Okay. So sometimes we could think about possible main ideas, like even before we read, like all of it, by taking note of what's repeated. So anything repeated here, like more than once?
Well, they're talking about reason, but basically like the way people manage things, it just became worse.
So we're being set. So what we could see that's repeated is uh, tell me a little bit.
That the ideas of like poor management have lived with Blair for a while. Like they've or I don't really know. That's the thing. I had trouble
No, you're.
with the main idea.
I think yeah, I think you're good. So there's a special idea of a manager that they're talking about here, which is someone who's able to do what?
Um,
Like what's
like
like yeah, like what's this? The way that the author like talks about management, what could that mean? Like the way the yeah, like what type of like what can a manager do that is related to what this guy's talking about?
um
Like a super manager?
like do a bunch of things at once.
Yeah. So this idea of a manager being a good manager if he or she is able to like regardless of what company he's at, he's gonna be a good manager, right?
Hmm.
And so that's the idea of the manager that we're talking about. And the author is he is for it, against it, neutral.
He's against it.
So that's all I would be kind of like thinking so far. So this way you get to have an idea of the main idea before finishing it. Not that you need to, but whenever basically I'm just saying whenever you see the repeated ideas, be like, all right, that could be something.
Mhm.
Good.
Um, with bigger bureaucracies, companies couldn't respond quickly to market changes, new technology, competitors, or customer needs. More powerful top executives became, the less they knew. Their information was filtered through staff reports and statistical tables. Some executives developed what consultant Mel Stuckey calls a phobia of manufacturing. They didn't know what happened in factories and feared exposing their ignorance. So yeah, these top executives, they don't really know what's actually going on in the company because there's so many people below them and they're using all these different tables and ways of analysis. Um, that yeah, they just didn't even know what was going on.
Hmm. Yep.
Roger Smith, GM's chairperson between 1981 and 1990, exemplified this sort of know-nothing executive. Okay. When asked by Fortune magazine to explain what went wrong, he answered, I don't know, it's a mysterious thing. To fathom what had gone wrong, Smith would truly have to understand the way automobiles are designed and made. He apparently never did, despite a career at GM. As a society, we have spent more than a decade paying for mistakes like Smith's. Inept management, though not the only cause of corporate turmoil, has been a major contributor. Downsizing and restructuring are but the catchwords for the harsh process by which companies are seeking to regain their edge.
Yeah.
So they give an example of Smith, and he was a manager who didn't actually know what was going on in his company, like automobiles. Um, and the author says we've been paying for these types of mistakes for more than a decade, and inept management is one of the causes of corporate turmoil. Now, the last sentence of the last of the this paragraph, I didn't really understand.
What do you think?
What I would think is, I mean, he's just maybe alluding to ways that we can improve or reverse the damage that has been done. Like these are the ways companies are trying to regain their edge. So like,
Okay.
I guess get better.
Okay. Uh, for the paragraph, let's see. Okay. Okay. I guess I was just gonna say something like something that could be weak about paragraph um one, two, three, four, five, paragraph five. What could be something that is weak about that?
Wake about
Yep, about that paragraph.
that freelancers are jumping around. Like what do you mean weak about that paragraph?
Like, sorry, so like this paragraph has something that some other most of the other paragraphs have that this one doesn't have. I know, like I'm being very vague.
Yeah, hold example.
Good. Because paragraph one, we have a bunch of examples. Paragraph two, examples like more of an analogy. Paragraph three, straight up examples. Paragraph four, straight like this book, this guy's book example. Um, Second to last paragraph, I was gonna ask about that, but they kind of continue. Oops, they kind of continue that with an example in the last paragraph. So yeah, only this one doesn't have something like that type of you
Hmm.
know uh, evidence. So yeah, okay, cool.
So the main idea is that managers shouldn't be like trying to manage a bunch of different things all at once. And most of these managers that aren't good managers in the eyes of the author, they don't really know what's going on at their company.
Yep. So the idea that a manager is someone who could theoretically manage any company, regardless of what that company is about is a bad a bad type of manager because the manager should be able to have more intimate knowledge of whatever their company, the company that they're managing does. And we have a bunch of examples, but like the most like salient one is Roger Smith, who works, he's a whatever, uh, the chairperson of a car company, but he doesn't know anything about how cars are made. And that's an example of something that's not good.
Got it.
Okay.
One can infer from the passage the author's belief that Taylor's principles of scientific management would have had a more positive impact on the practice of management if Taylor had. Belief that more positive impact if Taylor had. Okay, I mean, um, I know Taylor spoke about efficiency. Um, Taylor, I mean that was honestly the part that I understood the least, like that middle part of the passage. But like I know Taylor spoke about efficiency. I know the author wants like I still didn't really understand the reason part where it talked about like reason or whatever. Um,
You mean
but
how things could be solved using reason?
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
That was like the part I understood the least, but
Well, it doesn't make sense now.
no, not really.
So like it's like saying that you could fix these issues if you use like logic. And so this dude wrote a book about like kind of like science, right? To apply that to management, I guess. Um so and science is based on reason, like logic and all that stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, so we confirm the passer. Authors believe that Taylor's principle would have had more positive impact. Taylor had. Okay. I mean, probably something like about how managers should try to only have like one role and not manage a bunch of things at once, maybe. That's our main idea.
Yep, that is our main idea.
Okay, I'm just gonna look at the choices. Been a manager rather than a scientist. Okay. I don't know. I don't know yet. Been more specific in defining his management principles. Um, okay. By the way, I got this question wrong like two times in a row that I did. Restricted his work to analyses of efficiency. Um, okay, wait. So I think A, it just doesn't really speak to me. If he had, like, if he was a manager, I mean, he could be any manager. What if he's one of those bad managers?
Exactly.
So I would eliminate A. Been more specific in defining his management principles. Like, I don't know, it's kind of broad. Restrict his work to analysis of efficiency. That's what the people like were like. That's what his thing was about. Um, base his work on observation managers rather than theory management. So like, once again, he could be observing like some bad managers.
Yeah.
So like, I would probably eliminate D. Um, because what if he's observing like Roger Smith? Been more specific in defining his management principles, restricted his work to analyses of efficiency. This is like tough. Um, more specific in defining his management principles. At this point, I'd probably go back to the passage and like,
Yeah, go.
yeah. So, okay, they said he says efficiency, but then the author says, but his larger purpose was to prove that the best management is a true science. So I would have to pick B, but I really don't know.
So in this paragraph, we are saying, okay, how could this bad idea have survived this long? Meaning the belief that things can be solved using reason. And then we talk about Taylor's book, which is about what?
Taylor's book is about, I mean, a couple things, but he's kind of applying science to management.
So tell me a little bit more about what specifically uh in his book.
That we can use science to, like, I guess, become better at management.
Or how about uh basically analyzing how jobs can be done more efficiently,
Hmm.
right? And so after that, we have our contrast word to say that his larger purpose was to prove that the best management is a true science.
Hmm.
So is the so what would the author.
Okay, so I do understand, I think, now more because after the author says the trouble is that this was taken too far and became self-destructive.
Okay,
So I guess he doesn't like this part. He doesn't like this.
okay.
Um, but I mean, yeah, in that case, like I guess switch to C.
Yeah, because he's not disagreeing with Taylor about efficiency, right? But we have our contrast word when he talks about the larger purpose was to prove that management could be related to this thing about efficiency. Like the author isn't saying that he's against the idea of doing things efficiently. He's against like using that to say that management should be like treated as like this true science with reason and everything like that. So B won't be it because he doesn't want to hear Taylor's ideas of management because he doesn't really believe these other people's, I guess, theories of management. But
Okay.
we don't have the author deny that Taylor knew how to see how certain jobs could be done more efficiently.
Mhm. Okay. Passage strongly implies that when Roger Smith said he did not know what went wrong at GM, he. So I remember this was an example. He doesn't really know what's going on at his company. Probably suspected what went wrong, but was not confident enough to voice his suspicions. So like yeah, he doesn't know what went wrong. Must have known what went wrong, but was refusing to say so. I mean, so he doesn't really know what went wrong. Must have misunderstood the question that has been posed. Really did not know what went wrong. I mean, they said he apparently never did.
Mhm.
So like, I'll pick D.
Yep.
Okay. Um, if recent graduates of business schools were polled as to their career goals, which of the following goals would directly oppose the author's vision of appropriate management? Okay, oppose. So the author is saying that you don't want people to be doing a bunch of stuff at once, like kind of focus, zone in on one thing. Um, yeah, like yeah, I mean that's what he's saying. And a well, oppose, so it'd have to be the opposite. So like do a bunch of things all at once. Um, learn as much about a particular industry as possible. Okay, well that would not oppose. Acquire as much knowledge of management practices as possible. Um, okay, I mean maybe. Advance to the presidency of a small corporation. So they said they're downsizing. So I think that's I don't know. I feel like I don't know if that would oppose. Um, because some corporations are downsizing and restructuring. Work as efficiently as possible on each management task. So here, um, I think I picked D when I first was doing this because I like for some reason thought that the author was against efficiency or something. But um yeah, so I would oppose the author's vision. I just think B is so broad, but it's like we're looking for like the least wrong answer. So um yeah, I mean I guess I would pick B.
Okay. What would lead someone to choose D?
Um just seeing the word efficient and it was mentioned.
Yep. And what would lead someone to eliminate B?
I mean, I like eliminated B originally, honestly, because it's like I don't know, he seemed like he was against management.
Huh? So, but what would be like the average person like eliminate?
Like like I guess they um maybe not remembering it's like a pose.
Uh, so they'll be like this. They'll be like, well, they never talked about knowledge of as many management policies as possible.
Hmm.
So they'll cross it out, and then they'll say, oh yeah, they talked about efficiency. So they're going to choose D.
Hmm.
So you're also at the point where you're able to find your trap answers,
Hmm.
right? So that trap answer is using like the same word, and then the other end of that is eliminating stuff because they so-called didn't mention it.
Hmm.
So yeah, like it's not really screaming, like B isn't really screaming at me as this is right, like meaning the answer. Uh, but yeah, the other ones are more wrong, right?
Yeah.
And D is has an additional layer of trickery uh related to that previous question where we had to know like what about Taylor did the author disagree with, right? And he disagreed with Taylor, saying that applying the efficiency to management, that's what he was against. But the author was not opposed to the doing jobs efficiently and stuff. But yep.
In the context of the rest of the passage, the author's comments about Roger Smith's mistake probably refer either to. So this is toughy for me too. Smith's inability to succeed in that particular industry, or to his over-reliance on general management skills. Smith's over-reliance on a large staff, or to his over-reliance on his own judgments. Smith's poor judgment in a few critical cases, or to his poor judgment in most cases. I would remove that. They don't talk about few critical cases. Said he didn't really know anything, and yeah.
Mhm.
Um, it's my least favorite so far. Smith's limited experience as a manager, or to his instant insensitivity, sorry, to consumers' needs. They don't talk about consumers.
Yeah.
Now, I was between A and B, and I ended up choosing, I think, B. Um, but I feel like A now, yeah, it probably stands out to me as a little better, I think. Because, I mean, they're talking about general management skills, and the author kind of opposes the general management skills. And also, I mean, yeah, he talks about the inability to succeed in that automobile industry.
Mhm.
The reason I chose B is because like earlier they spoke about the fact that there was like a staff of analysts that was just serving these executives.
Mhm.
The over-reliance on his own judgments part, though, is probably a trap. Because I don't know if they ever mentioned that.
Mhm. Yep. So you could treat this as a structure question because it's referring to the final paragraph, and that can perhaps let you eliminate uh eliminate the large stat like choice B because of localization. It's in a different paragraph. Like they only mentioned Smith in the last paragraph, and in the last paragraph they mentioned like they didn't mention that he has a huge staff. They don't mention that he's like, he has an over reliance on his own judgment because it seems like he's just straight up saying, I don't know. And he's not even trying to hide anything. He's like, doesn't know because he says he doesn't know because he actually doesn't know. So
Okay.
yeah. So you can kind of see that if B is in a different paragraph entirely, yeah. And I guess one of the connecting thoughts that we didn't talk about that's important here is that so we know that a bad manager is one that, thinks that they can manage like any company without like having to learn exactly about that company. Um, and I think that's related to the idea of um managers, since they're not learning about the industry that they're trying to manage, what they are doing is they're learning about just generically management itself.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Got it. That's like you know that meme of like it's like the guy who has like the intergalactic like intelligence. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like
Like it's with like someone with a really small brain, and then it gets higher,
yeah,
higher.
yeah.
What?
That's like that actually makes more sense now. Okay.
Mhm.
Um so like they're not focused on like the actual like nitty-gritty
Yep.
of like their company. They're more focused on like actually just managing like different things. Not like, okay, whatever. So suppose that a corporation that manufactures wristwatches decides to diversify its production to include handheld calculators. According to Bassett argument, what should management do to maximize the potential success of the new venture? So the article spoke about the fact that you need to can't really be doing a bunch of things at once. You need to be a little more like specific in terms of management. Okay, consult with other entrepreneurs who have been successful in their own fields. Maybe. Increase efficiency by making the calculators as similar to wristwatches as possible. Yeah, again, I'm mentioning efficiency. Hire technical experts to advise management about the progress of the venture. So I'm gonna probably remove C for now, and I just don't think it connects as much as A and B to what the passage was talking about. Um, yeah. It was kind of like the whole analyst thing. The analysts were like serving the executives. I don't know. Learn as much as possible about successes and failures of other producers of calculators. So, so this is a pretty enticing choice. But yeah, I mean, I think this is also a really difficult question for me. I think I got it wrong also twice when I did this. Um, the the author directly gives examples about people that they were successful in their own fields. So like I like A, but B they talk about efficiency. Like I mean Taylor wrote about efficiency, but it wasn't discussed that much. Um
So
it's
what,
tough.
like, let's say Roger Smith, what's one thing he could have done for the author that the author would think of him as not being like really shitty or whatever?
Learn more about automobiles.
All right.
So what, D? But
Right.
like, I don't know, I feel like it's like slightly illogical leap.
Uh, so if he consulted with other entrepreneurs who have been successful in their own fields, that's different from the field that they're asking about, which is
True.
handheld calculators. So that would be like learning management from like let's say you're trying to do make a company like I don't know, an MCAT company, and you learn about how Elon Musk like
Right, right, right.
does his thing. The author would be like, no, you should learn about the the MCAT or whatever.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
so so yeah, the idea that's like the idea of like just not learning about the actual thing that they're managing. So other entrepreneurs who are successful in their own fields won't help this guy learn how to be able to make a company that sells calculators. Um, Increase efficiency, they're exploiting like the paragraph that talked about efficiency, and thereby they're exploiting people who think things like, oh, they mentioned efficiency in the passage. They didn't mention calculators in the passage, that kind of thing. Yeah, C is out because, you know, it's hiring technical experts when the author wants like the actual manager to know that and like know about what they're doing. So yeah, it's gonna be D.
Okay. But I even pick. Oh, well, I got it right, I guess, second time. If an analogy were made between a physician's private practice and the businesses described in the passage, then the potential disadvantage of a physician having a large staff versus a small one would be that the physician with a large staff might. So, yeah, okay. Be perceived as less responsible for patients' welfare. I don't think so. I think they'd still be perceived as responsible. There's kind of analogy to like executives having a bunch of analysts, but the executive is still the executive. Um, Come to know less and about how to provide medical welfare, medical care. That really connects to our main idea. I like that one a lot. Become more concerned with treating diseases and less concerned with preventing it. Um, I mean, if this guy was like a manager, that he wouldn't even know how to treat people. But, um, so no, overlook important administrative duties. Um, like I like be more because this one I feel like was pretty simple.
Okay.
Um, okay, if it would have been wrong, it would have been a bad look. But yeah, I mean, this is like if we found the main idea, like
Yep.
this is freebie.
Yep.
Okay. Throughout the passage, the term analysis is used to connote. So yeah, I also remember this being a little tough for me. So analysis, what would you do here? Like, would you go back and look for where analysis is mentioned, like here or wherever? What would you do? Or would you just like not even look back to the passage and start looking for the at the answers?
Uh, no, okay, that's a good question. So, like, yeah, I would look in the passage for these types of questions. Yeah, I would look at the passage.
Okay.
Um,
So they say through incisive analysis and decisive action, supermanagers supposedly can make any company productive and profitable. Um, Huge staffs of analysts. Okay, well that's not really analysis, but um, somewhere in the middle, I remember. Oh yeah, dazzling analysis, casually changing jobs and succeeding on the strength of dazzling analysis.
okay, so since they say analysis like 20 times, this is going to be a little bit tougher. So I want to think now, like, if our issue is that the managers don't know enough about their own whatever like field, um and I think throughout the passage they talked about analysis being done by people who are not the manager or CEO or whatever, right? Because either we have like, like whatever, and analysis from like analysts. I think I would look at it like that because they say analysis so many times here. So 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 yeah, I'm thinking then what's the issue and is that issue solved by analysts or does it still persist where like do the issues still persist even after analysis?
They still persist?
Uh-huh. Like the problems, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean I would eliminate D here because there wasn't really competition.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Okay. A desire for improvement, substantive understanding. Well, they don't really understand.
Right? Yeah.
Um,
Like substantive understanding would be something the author would want.
mhm.
So, but we want something that the author doesn't want.
So I mean, I'm guessing, hmm, guessing A.
Mm-hmm.
Not guessing. I mean, yeah, I would think it's A.
Yep. Because yeah, because either analysis means actual like substantive understanding, in which case the author wouldn't be opposed, but they are using it to refer to things that the author is opposed to, and superficial understanding fits.
Sure.
But that's a good question you asked me because yeah, in these types of questions, I would go back to the passage. But this one they use a lot, like a lot of.
Hmm.
But so that's when I started to think, okay, they're using it a lot of times. Are those times like when it's used, is it used as a solution? No. So it's not going to be something nice. Like it's not going to be something like B.
Okay. The author offers no support for his claim that. Okay, so claim. We spoke about this. It was here. There's no claim.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, you kind of like could anticipate questions like this.
Yeah. Some companies have already experienced the death of management. He said that these. Society pays for the mistakes associated with poor management. Right here, we have made, I literally remember even, I don't even have to look, but it's like we've been paying for a decade for something for like these mistakes, and it's like Smith. The all-purpose manager is a uniquely American concept. Um, okay, so he he lists some companies that failed. Now, society pays for the mistakes associated with poor management. So, like Smith's, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, he gave an example
Yep.
of a mistake.
Yep.
The all-purpose manager is a uniquely American concept. That's more here. Taylor thought that the notion of an all-purpose manager was valid. I was like here. So Taylor thought, but like he speaks about Taylor here. So like,
Mhm. Yeah. So um okay, so it was something that like when I mentioned paragraphs without whatever support, I actually see that this is in a paragraph that has support, except it isn't supporting what the answer is here.
mhm. um,
And the Taylor thing, there is a quote which I assume to be from Taylor. Yeah.
so like, is this though like this doesn't really talk about all-purpose manager.
Um, so I think like the bad idea that we've been talking about is that all-purpose manager, and that Taylor's, book was trying to perhaps substantiate that.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. This is tough. I mean, like I guess it's C, but
Yeah, because in the first paragraph they say the peculiarly, yeah. So like when I was what I was saying about like me not mentioning paragraph one for not having uh support, like evidence. We did here with Sears, Westinghouse, IBM. However, that's support for this idea that the super managers could make any company productive and profitable. And then examples of where that did not happen are these. But here, peculiarly American idea of, what this good manager is, which someone who can manage anything. They didn't really, even though they gave us American companies, they didn't really give us an example of how this is something that's unique to America.
Mhm.
Like they could have said Sears, Westinghouse, IBM, but not I don't know. Virgin Galactic, I think, is like a British company or something. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, tough one. Tough one here. Yep.
Which of the following statements best sums up the main point of the passage? Okay. Criticism represents second-hand limitation of creative power. Wait, what? Oh, we're done.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Um,
Yep.
so I think honestly, I was thinking of going over some passage for electrolytic cells, but like
Mhm.
I think maybe if you do have some questions you wanted to ask first, that might be better because it's gonna cover more stuff.
Uh, okay. We can I mean like the pat you said you had a passage? Or
Yeah, like there's a Jack Weston passage I want to go over.
okay.
How many different like things did you want to cover?
Uh it would have been like a couple of different things based on what you feel to be like difficult concepts.
Uh-huh.
So what are some like I guess difficult concepts?
So 1 second.
Yeah, yeah. But we could also, yeah, we could do that passage you're referring to, and then like I guess tomorrow we can do some of these other topics and stuff. Um,
Okay.
after you tell me like
Yeah.
particular areas, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, wait, let me quickly go get water.
Yep.
Okay. So a group of students investigated the reactions of several metals with solutions of metallic ions. The students placed strips of various metals into four different cationic solutions and collected the data in table one. Okay. Um, Students placed metallic strips into solutions of the same metal and connected that to a similar container using other metals. Students then measured the voltage generated via voltmeter. Metal W. Okay. When Mg, metal W, no change. Okay. The students compared the results to known values from reference reduction potential table. Uh-huh. Okay. Pretty short, like amount of words. Student has a battery made of palladium and copper and switches the copper for zinc. What conclusion is most expected? Okay. Palladium and copper. Palladium and copper. So palladium and copper, um, battery. Okay, so they talk about voltaic cells. Voltaic cells, um so voltaic cell, the E cell is positive, which means delta G is negative. And when we have palladium and copper, um, palladium would be the cathode
Okay.
because it's greater than copper, which is 0.34. So yeah, okay. Um,
So when you have palladium and copper, you said palladium gets reduced.
Palladium is the cathode, so it gets reduced, yeah.
And then what happens with the copper?
The copper gets oxidized at the anode.
Hmm. And what would that change here?
What would that change?
Mhm.
Like, what do you mean by that?
So all of these are reduction half reactions.
Hmm.
So if something is not being reduced, but is
Well, it would be negative 0.34 technically.
yep, that's gonna be your because yeah, that means that wait, where's mine? Yeah, so since this is has a higher reduction potential, it will get reduced. This one has a lower reduction potential, so it'll be oxidized going this way, and the charge is gonna be uh flipped.
So you're saying when we do like E cathode minus E anode, it would be 0.95 minus negative 0.34. So they're
Uh,
being
if you're doing it with that, um, then yeah, it'll be
so are you saying that then I would should forget what you just said? Like I know that like we flip it technically, but because the way the formula is in my head at this point, it's
yeah.
E cath minus E anode.
Okay, that's fine then.
Okay, okay, okay. So yeah, so delta G would be negative, which means it's spontaneous. That makes sense. The voltaic cell switches the copper to zinc. Okay, copper to zinc. I mean, it's still the zinc is less than the palladium. Um, wait. So if we subtract it though, yeah, I mean it'll be positive still. Value of G is unchanged. That's wrong. Um, Thermodynamics does not affect voltaic cells as there's no heat exchange. So I think that that's wrong. Thermodynamics does affect voltaic cells.
They could be related in the delta G is equal to negative NF cell potential. Um, uh, so they could be related, sure.
Yeah, so I would say that here the delta G
Mhm.
it would decrease
Yep,
because the E cell would be greater, which means delta G is like more negative.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, okay. In the setup seen in figure one, which direction will electrons go in the wire, and which direction is the current? Which direction will electrons go to the wire? Hold on. Figure one, which direction is current? Okay. Mg metal W. So thing is, what is metal W? Um, like I just don't know what metal W is.
Okay. Well, even without looking at that, we could eliminate two choices, right?
Sure, I mean we could eliminate A and we could eliminate C.
Yeah.
Um, well, yeah, I mean yeah, no, I don't know what metal W is. Uh, so Mg is negative 2.38. So what I'm thinking is, well, there's no change in metal W, but there's change at Mg2 plus maybe.
Okay.
But like I'm just like kind of guessing because they don't really they say in metal W there's no change.
Mm-hmm.
Like so I guess that means that Mg it's gaining electrons. So like if the electrons it's gaining, then they're traveling from right to left.
So when it comes to, yeah, so for something like this, right? This means so that the brown layer that's formed on the metal is copper solid, right?
Yeah.
So for metal W with wait, did I say magnesium?
Yes, they did.
But figure one, wait, where is it? Oh,
Here,
because
one is
one has
right
it.
here.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so okay, and here we see no change, so we shouldn't see magnesium, solid form, right?
Exactly. So that means that metal W. Wait, what?
Yeah, the no change here, like so just like here, if we have a change, it's because the copper 2 plus got reduced to copper solid.
Wait, but doesn't isn't this talking? This is the observation is talking about metal W. So does that mean metal W is not gaining anything?
Uh so what's what
So okay, so you see how it's
yep.
observations. What
Mhm.
I'm under the way I understand it is that it's that I thought that metal W, there's no change at metal W, so I assume that there is the change at the Mg solid.
So for these observations like this, oh, like that right there,
Yeah,
over here, like it says the brown layer formed on the metal. So something brown is forming on metal W, right? And that thing that forms on metal W is solid copper. Okay. which means that,
Right.
yep. So that means that copper is getting reduced, and this one is going to be oxidized. The metal W is going to be oxidized, right? Whereas for this, we have no change, which means magnesium is going to not get reduced to magnesium solid.
Yeah. So like that means that metal W is sending its electrons to magnesium. And it's like magnesium, there's layer being built on magnesium.
Mhm.
There's stuff being built on magnesium, right?
Sorry. No, no. There's nothing. So basically, you have like this and this unchanged, right? Uh, but if you had a change and it's something like a brown layer of something on the metal, that's going to be the solid version of the solution that it's in. Uh, in other words, here we have that this is reduced, which means metal W gets oxidized. And then here we actually have gas bubbles, which would be it turning into H2 gas, which has an oxidation state of 0, just like these solids have oxidation states of 0. And if we're going from plus to an oxidation state of 0, we are losing electrons. I'm sorry, gaining electrons and getting reduced, right?
Yeah.
So for the magnesium, since there's no change, the magnesium 2 plus does not get reduced.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then what happens to it?
So it's not getting reduced. I would say it would then make sense for it to get to be oxidized.
Mhm.
Right. And so you're gonna have, because the metal sol the and magnesium solid that this electrode is, like something happens to it that results in the solid turning into the cation,
Mhm.
which means it must the a magnesium solid must be losing electrons,
Mhm.
right? So like the you probably remember in one of the AMC full lengths there was a passage like this, right? Where
We
they,
covered it, yes.
yeah. So now usually we're given like table 2 reduction potentials, and when we're given or reduction potentials with half reactions, reduction half reactions, it's simple in that we, if we're comparing two things, whichever one has a higher reduction potential will get reduced. Whichever one has a lower reduction potential will get oxidized, right?
Mhm.
But now when they give us a table like table 1, it's qualitative information that we have to use. So that means that metal W, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. If you have, metal W here and here, if you have, let's say, copper, like copper solid, and here, copper 2 plus, right? And we find that some layer gets deposited onto the metal W, right? That
Mhm.
must be copper solid that gets formed on metal W,
Yeah.
right? Which would mean that metal metal W, so that would mean that the copper 2 plus turns into copper solid, which means that it's gaining electrons. So in that case, the copper is getting reduced and therefore is the cathode, and metal W is getting oxidized and therefore it's an anode,
Mhm.
right? So but in the case of magnesium 2 plus with metal W, we have no change. So that means there is no solid magnesium forming on metal W, right? Which means that if the magnesium just turns into magnesium cation in this beaker on the left, and we know that it's not getting reduced, then it must be getting oxidized in order for the magnesium solid to turn into magnesium 2 plus.
Okay.
Okay.
So what here? It's this.
Yep. So they're saying that, well, I guess we're using table 2, but we shouldn't need that based on, yeah. Okay, so here they're saying table 1 indicate, so no reaction has taken place, but like yeah, that's the idea here, I guess. Like even with the gas bubbles, right? So when it comes to a table like this, right? And we have some layer forming on the metal, like in a solution of metal W and copper, the copper has to the metal W stays solid as metal W, but the copper 2 plus it goes from aqueous to turning into a solid, and that's the solid layer, brown layer that forms on metal W.
The copper.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand that part.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
you have gas bubbles, that's going to be producing H2 gas with an oxidation state of 0. So again, we are gaining electrons in that direction.
Yeah. So in a voltaic cell of Fe2 plus and Pd2 plus under standard conditions, approximate the current expected if the resistance of the voltmeter is 0.2 ohms.
Okay, they're throwing in some, yep, some,
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, the electrode potential is V, and it's Fe and PD2 plus, Fe2 plus, PD2 plus. So Fe2 plus and PD2 plus, and it's a voltaic cell, so 0.95 minus 0.95 plus 0.45. Technically, that is 1.4. 1.4 is V. V equals IR. 1.4 equals 0.2 times I, right? So in that case, it would be D.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Each cell is voltage. Okay. It's good to know, actually. If we created an electrolytic cell from metal X and metal Z, which will describe the electrode at metal X? Electrolytic cell. In an electrolytic cell, the anode is positive. Metal X and metal Z. So hold on. Wait, metal X. In an electrolytic cell, the anode is positive.
Okay.
The anode is positive. The anode is positive. Okay, B is out right away. Cathode, anode is positive. Cathode negative. Cathode negative. Cathode negative. B is out. Cathode negative. C is out. B and C are out automatically.
Yeah.
So it's between A and D. Now we have to again look at this freaking table. So metal X, metal Z. So metal X, when it reacts with copper, there's brown layer formed. That means copper is getting oxidized, right? Like a copper is losing electrons and they're going onto metal X. or
So the brown layer is what's that made of?
it's made of copper,
Yep. And copper solid.
but it's on. I thought it's on met. I thought the copper electrons are going to metal X. Like here, for example, I like let's say metal W is metal X and Mg is copper. I thought that copper is moving to metal X and the copper ion, like the copper electron, get added onto metal X. That's
So
what I thought this means.
so this could mean that yes, there could be electrons flowing from the left to the right, which would coat the metal W here with a negative charge, which would make magnesium cation like interact with the negative charge to get reduced to form the solid magnesium on that electrode. So for metal X, you see copper produces a brown layer on the metal, which means that the copper is gaining electrons to turn into copper solid, right?
Mhm.
Now, if copper solid is forming on metal X, that means copper 2 plus is getting reduced, right? It's gaining electrons to go from 2 plus to an oxidation state of 0.
Okay.
And so between metal X and copper, since copper is what's getting reduced, copper must have a higher reduction potential than metal X, right?
Yeah.
Now, metal Z with copper does not produce a change, which means that when you have copper and metal Z, the copper is not getting reduced.
Yeah, so metal Z has a lower reduction potential.
Higher, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Metal Z has a higher reduction potential. Red cat, 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 cat. Metal Z, cat, metal X, and node D.
So, um, so metal X is going to be like uh so if we did this, like reduction potential of copper is larger than reduction potential of metal X, and metal reduction potential of metal Z would be the largest then, right?
Yeah.
Like basically, since copper in the presence of metal X gets reduced, copper's reduction potential must be greater than that of metal X.
Yeah, yeah. But I
Yep.
mean, maybe since it's an electrolytic cell, like
Hmm.
we'd have to like switch it.
So if we're talking about metal, so metal X having the smallest reduction potential would mean it's going to be the most likely to be oxidized.
Mhm.
And you can think about it like that, and then see like if that would make this, the anode or cathode, and then you can go from there to flip the sign to get for the electrolytic gap.
Okay, so if it would be electrolytic, then is would we want to make metal X the cathode?
So since it's going to be um uh oh sorry, yes.
Okay. Honestly, I was getting a little tired.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Mhm.
Okay, analyst positive, yeah. Measure concentration of copper in half cells, absorption spectroscopy is utilized, which frequency of light would have maximum transmittance from the graph below. E equals HC over lambda equals HF. Um, maximum transmittance. Like, I mean, so they're asking what's the highest amount of the highest frequency.
Let's see. So transmittance versus absorbance could be related to that.
I don't really know what transmittance is.
It'll just be the opposite of absorbance. So like it like if something appears green, it's absorbing
Oh, okay.
other colors. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's the opposite, we'd plug in the wavelength for 700 nanometers because it has the least absorbance. Yeah.
Uh oh, and then you would get so yeah, I guess you could do that. Yeah, like you take that wavelength and the speed of light to get some frequency value, right?
Yeah.
What would
I
that?
don't I don't know what it would be. I mean, 3 times 10 to the 8 divided by 700 times 10 to the ninth, negative ninth. Yeah.
3/7's around 1/2. 8 minus -7 is 15. 0.5 E15 left, add, right, subtract 5 E14, and 1/2 is like higher than yeah. So yeah, here just the main thing is that transmittance is like going through it. Absorbance is getting absorbed by it.
Mhm.
But yep, pretty much what you did. So
Okay.
good. Yep. So okay, tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, and
Oh, oh yeah, 4:30. Yes, 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 yes.
yep, and see if you can like kind of like yeah, list off topics that you feel would be good to go over for like that last day.
So yeah, I'm gonna send them to you by like, you
Yep.
know, by like midday tomorrow.
Okay. Okay.
And how much was it today? The total?
Um, 113.
113. Okay. Sounds good. I'll see you
All right.
tomorrow then.
Take care.